Wow, what a game between England and Scotland. I don't think anyone saw that coming. A 0-0 draw between England, who happen to be one of the better teams in this tournament, and Scotland, who really no one really thinks are going to do really well. So let's dive deeper into this match and go over some of the highlights for this game. For those that know who I am, my name is Mike. We love talking about football here. Now, today's topic is again against the group game where England played Scotland. And wow, did England really have a shocking game where they looked terrible. No one looked good. Maybe you could say Mings, maybe you could say Stones. Stones had an opportunity at one point. He hit the post. Is probably one of those efforts that you expect him to score, being the player that he is. But again, he came just short, hitting the post and the ball coming back out. But really after that, there wasn't a whole lot that England could really talk about. Now, they started with Luke Shaw on the left, which I think is the better option than having Trippier. It's hard to really say if Chilwell would have been better since they did a back four. I think Luke Shaw is the better option because he's a right and out left back, whereas Chilwell's more of a left wing back. So I think that Luke Shaw was the better option. And I think he was probably one of the better players on the field as well. He made a lot of runs, some really good passes and everything, and shut down that whole right side. So I think overall he did a pretty good job along with Mings on that left side, but that could be because of Luke Shaw. Now, that right side, we had Stones and we had Reece James, which was a bit of a surprise. I didn't think Reece James would actually be starting any of these games. I thought for sure Trippier was going to be the starting player just because, again, you want that seniority out on the pitch. If they would have had any free kicks, I think Trippier is the better player to have out there. But Southgate's went with Reece James. I do like the player, obviously being a Chelsea fan, but I don't think he was the right option for this game. And not saying Reece James had a bad game, but he really didn't shine too well. And I don't think, again, he was the right choice for this position. Maybe Kyle Walker could have stepped in, but I think Trippier was the better option. Now, in the midfield, we had Rice and Phillips, again, with that combination, which, yes, I can see why Southgate's went with this option. It is a little more defensive, but they did do fairly well against Croatia. But if they're playing a team like Scotland, who's going to be sitting back the entire time, going to have that low block, you probably need some better midfielders that are going to be able to unlock that idea of that defense in Scotland. And I don't think Phillips and Rice are those two players. Yes, I mean, they are good players, but again, they're not the decisive players you're going to get to breaking down that defensive line from Scotland. They also had Mason Mount, which he didn't look very well. I'm not sure if he's a little more fatigued from all the playing he's been doing. But again, I wasn't really impressed by his playing as well. And then shockingly, for some reason, Sterling started again over Grealish, which again, talking about how Scotland's playing, you want a player that can actually drive towards that and maybe weave through dribbling wise, make 1-2 touch passes and break down defense. And Sterling is not that player. Now, again, I've mentioned before, now hate towards Sterling, but he's a player that more runs onto ball. So again, if you play that ball through, he can run onto it and then do some movement and everything like that. Whereas again, Scotland was sitting back. They had multiple players in those positions, so it's really difficult to play those through balls and try to get Sterling onto one of those balls. And therefore, I think Grealish was the better option. Now, on the right side, we had Phil Foden, which, yes, makes sense to have him as well because he does the same thing as Grealish. Not as experienced, but again, they both have that footwork to get in and break through. And Phil Foden did look all right. I mean, he had a few chances. He was offsides on a few of the calls, which I think he was still putting a lot of threat and pressure on defense. And then Harry Kane up top, I don't know what's going on with him, but he has been just a no-show, at least in this game. He was there for Croatia, but really in this whole Scotland game, I didn't see much out of him, and it's hard to say if he's actually going to start for their last game. Now, I think he still should. England have 4 points, so most likely they will advance with that, but I'm not sure if they're going to try to push to make sure that they get second in the group, because nothing really is in stone right now because any team can still come out of this group. Because obviously Czech Republic is sitting in the driver's seat right now. They still have to play England. So if they can beat England, they can take the first spot. Same thing with England. They can beat Czech Republic. They can take the first spot. And even Scotland, if they win, they can probably take that third spot or even second. And same with Croatia with their draw today. So this whole group is still up in the air. but I'm not sure if Harry Kane is the right player to play their next match unless they change up their formation, because 4-3-3 is not working right now for England, which again isn't really surprising. They're a team that work a lot better with almost five, so having the three and the two wing backs that can really run up and make those opening lines, along with their midfield being a little more creative. And right now, it's just not working out for them. And in this game, we saw that because Scotland, again, yes, they're a good team. I enjoy watching Scotland. I like a lot of their players, but they're not in the same caliber as England. Yet today, they showed that they can go neck and neck with England, or that England can really play pretty poorly in this tournament, because if they're playing France, if they're playing Germany, Portugal, any of those teams coming out of Group F, they are going to get just hit hard and get knocked out fairly quickly. And you could even say that against any of the other teams, possibly Spain, possibly the Netherlands. I don't see England right now being anywhere near those level of teams right now in this tournament. Now, they could still change that in this last game and moving forward to the knockout stage. But as of right now, England are looking terrible, and they're looking like they may crash out a lot sooner than everyone predicted, because I know a lot of people thought that they could maybe make it to the final with this team. But as of right now, and I know I've said it before, Southgate seems a bit lost with this club, with this country, with this team, because I think he's starting to get in his own head right now of what players should start, which players should be on the bench, and even substituting different players, because that was the one big thing in this game where Sterling was having just, again, a terrible day, a terrible game, and all that. And there's nothing that you can really say about the player, the fact that you need to take him off. But instead, he brought on Rashford for Harry Kane, which, again, Harry Kane didn't have a very good game. But you would think that he's going to take off Sterling, bring in Rashford, who works better on the outside instead of being the main guy up top. But I don't know. He decided that that was the best spot for him. And after that happened, England just kept playing long ball after long ball after long ball to pretty much no one, which Scotland was more than happy to defend, because with their bigger guys in the back, that was just easy for them to head the ball down to one of their midfielders, Stuart Armstrong, McGinn, McTominay. I mean, all those guys really didn't have a hard time. And even on their left side, Robertson and Tierney were able to do a lot with each other. Now, they maybe should have scored a goal, but they didn't. I think England's lucky that Scotland didn't score. They had multiple chances, but it just didn't work out for Scotland today. So I got to tip my hat to them, because overall, I thought they played pretty well. They were able to hold England back, and really England didn't have too many chances, not too many big chances at least, because they did have a few. But overall, I think England didn't do what they needed to do. They didn't go into that game expecting what they should be doing. I think they came into this game overthinking that they already had won this game, and they were looking into their next game. And now their next game could be a make or break, because if they lose that game, that could be a huge loss, because, again, it's up in the air with 4 points right now, because 4 points, yes, should give you enough to make it to the next round, but it's not a guarantee. And I think Czech Republic can definitely beat England on any given day, and this might be one of those games where England, if they play poorly, Czech Republic can knock a few goals past them, drop down their goal differential, and lo and behold, they don't make it to the knockout stage. And again, England are wondering what happened. And obviously that will be the end of Southgate, which may or may not be the right choice, because, again, I don't think he's making the right choices as a manager right now for England. Now, obviously, the big things is that there's a few injuries, so that's probably making a huge difference. But again, I think Maguire should be starting in this back line. Now, obviously, Mings has been doing fairly well, but I think Harry Maguire is going to be the better option, because, again, if they do three in the back, then they can put Chilwell on that left side, or maybe Shaw, but I think Chilwell is going to be the better option. And on that right side, then they can actually have Reece James push up a little bit more and actually attack a little bit more and whip in those crosses that I think Harry Kane can get on the end of and score. So today, again, I think it was one of those that just showed you how poorly England can play. And I think this might be their lowest point in the tournament. Obviously, they can go lower than this, but I think this is going to be one of those reality checks that England needed for this tournament to realize that, hey, we need to step up. We need to play better. Southgate, you need to play some better players. I think Grealish has to start next game. I'm not sure why you keep starting Sterling. Grealish is the better player all around. I don't think Sterling really beats him in any category. Grealish is way better. I think it's time for Sancho to possibly get a start as well, maybe on that right side, or possibly throw him into the midfield. and I think Jude Bellingham definitely deserves some playing time as well. Those guys can really shine and play well, and I think it's going to give a little bit of a fresh of breath air for this team, because I think that's what they need. Right now they're looking very stale, and they definitely need to change it. So that's my take on England versus Scotland today. Comment down below what you thought, how you think England looked, how Scotland looked, because again, I think Scotland looked a lot better today than what England looked like. So that's all I have for you today. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. I greatly appreciate that. That means a lot. We've been covering the Euros, we're covering Chelsea, covering the Premier League, anything football related we're talking about. So that's all I have for you today, and we'll see you next time.